Every challenge coin holds a story. The unit, the deployment, the handshake it was pressed into your palm with. But stories fade unless someone saves them. Allcoin lets you digitize your coins and the stories behind them, a lasting record of what your service meant and who you served it with. Preserve your story free at allcoin.brav.co because your service is worth remembering.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Project Veterans Voices. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we're having one heck of a veteran story. Can't wait to get into it. But if you're enjoying these podcasts, well, hey, go check out our website, the Lost Art Project, veteransvoices.org. Go see what we're all about. We got a good bunch of new projects going on, so go hit every single page and check all those out. It's a lot of good information. And I want to give a shout out to the Allcoin out there with Brav. They are gracious enough to let me do a digital coin and put it out there, and everybody that is a guest and comes on the show gets a digital coin now. So I want to say thank you to Allcoin. And if you're out there, you need a veteran service officer, don't you worry about it. Marine Corps League's got you covered. You can always go to mcleague.org, VSO locator, where you can dial 703-207-9588, extension 299.
The Lost Art Project Veterans Voices would like to thank our sponsors. Saddleback Leather Company, saddlebackleather.com. They will fight over it when you are dead.
Brav, allcoin.brav.co. Preserving the stories behind your challenge coins.
Honor Dog Designs. Find them at honordogdesigns.com. Swag made just for you. Tinker Federal Credit Union. Visit tinkerfcu.org to learn more about their military rewards program.
All right, man, I'm excited. We got Tony here. I got to talk to him a little bit the other day. I'm excited that you're here, Tony. How you doing?
I'm doing great, AJ. Thank you for hosting this. It's really an honorable thing that you're doing to curate and save these stories of all of us that have served. So thanks, brother.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming on. I'm excited to hear your story.
Yeah. Well, I've told it plenty of times, so it should be pretty natural for me.
All right. Well, let's start at the beginning. Where did you grow up? What was that like? And then eventually what drew you to military service?
Yeah, sure. So born and raised in Camden, New Jersey, or within a few minutes of Camden, New Jersey. I live outside of Baltimore, Maryland right now, and Camden is very much a gritty town like Baltimore is today. My father was a first-generation Italian guy. His parents were both off of the boat. My grandfather was a tailor, and they were not people of means. In fact, my grandfather really made a living by making suits and dresses for mobsters. Back in the day, Camden was very much dominated by the Italian mob.
Mm-hmm.
My family my dad's family lived in that area. And so the people that had money to make clothes during the Depression and thereafter were people involved in organized crime. So my dad told me a story about his dad and the people that would come by the house. And so pretty interesting guy. My dad was not an educated guy. We never could get him to say when he graduated high school because I don't think he did graduate.
It's understandable.
He claims he went to Camden Catholic. He was raised Catholic. I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
And, he was one of four kids. He was the youngest of four kids. And he never really got an education. He really worked hard. He was a milkman when I was growing up. I can remember as a little kid going on his milk route with him, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, being there at 5, and sitting in the truck, no seat belt, sitting on a milk cart, milk trucks, and doing that with my dad. And my mom was a more educated woman. She was actually born in Haddonfield. Well, we're not quite sure where she was born. I should say she was adopted, but she was adopted by a family in Haddonfield, New Jersey, which is a more affluent area just outside of Camden, New Jersey.
Okay.
And her parents were entrepreneurs. They actually, her father and I guess her mom at the time, they owned a candy company. And so my mom, had a
Nice.
decent education. She went to Haddonfield High, where she was third in her class. And then she went on to nursing school and was first in her class in nursing school. And then she ends up marrying an uneducated Dago guy from Camden, New Jersey. It was, they were married there, for a long time until they died. They weren't divorced or anything like that. And they brought 4 kids into the world. My brother, Tom, then me, I'm the second oldest, and then my sister, Chris, and then my younger brother, Joe. So we were all kind of born and raised in, within a few minutes of Camden, where my dad is from, and, within a few minutes where my mom went to high school and where she was raised as well. We were not people of means by any stretch of the imagination. In retrospect, I didn't understand how poor we really were until I got older and kind of moved on. My mom worked mostly nights. She was a nurse at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. In fact, I think I was maybe 12 years old before I knew Philadelphia was in another state. It's just, it's just where we went to the city. We went, shopping on 8th Street and 9th Street in South Philadelphia, and we were Italian, and that was just the natural thing we would do. Chickens hanging in the storefront, and all fresh, breads and vegetables and cheeses, and a real kind of old world street vendor scene. We went every other weekend. All the sporting teams that we followed, the Eagles, the Flyers, the Sixers, the Phillies, all Philadelphia teams. And my mom was a gigantic Phillies fan and grew up having bats that she had collected when she was a kid by going to the ballpark. So we grew up around being Philadelphia Phillies fans in a pretty big way. And so there were 4 of us, and she worked nights, and she became a drug addict from I think working nights, and then she got hooked on speed. Of course, it was over-the-counter speed, so it these days we know that an addict is an addict doesn't matter where you're getting meds, you're still an addict. And and my mom definitely had addict-like behaviors. I mean, they did their best. I don't recall going out to dinner all too often. It was like, at the local Italian restaurant or pizza joint. It's like, we weren't going to Ruth's Chris or anything for steaks. That's
right.
And and that was okay. My mom was a pretty good cook. My mom had that issue. I didn't see my dad drink very much. He had a glass of Paisano wine at dinner, a couple nights a week. And so, we were a reasonably stable family. They had their ups and downs, of course, like any couple. We were sent to Catholic school. So although we were not people of means, I remember very, very distinctly my dad going to, for example, St. Rose of Lima, where I went in the 7th grade, just outside of Camden, where my dad went in the summer and on the weekends and in the evenings, and he painted the school. He and other dads were earning their keep, right? He couldn't afford to pay tuition And so they exchanged labor back then.
Wow.
This was in the early 60s, and he was able to exchange his labor for sending his kids to Catholic school. My brother went, I went, my sister went to Catholic school. All
That
the way
is
through.
awesome.
Yeah. So it was a very much an exchange of one thing for another. You know, I was confirmed in the Catholic Church as an altar boy, never abused, never had anything weird happen. So let's get that off the table.
Yeah.
I think the most tawdry thing is we hit the, you know, the
communion
wine, you know, every once in a while. That's about it. And so nothing weird happened with my brother or you know, my sister or anything like that.
Yeah.
And you know, we always, my brother and I were always looking to make $1. You know, started out with a paper route when I was 8. My brother was 10 at the time, and our home was the place where they delivered the papers for all the local paper boys. So every day, you know, 7 days a week, you'd have a dozen kids. And it was all kids back then. I know a lot of people grew up and, you know, some guy comes around the neighborhood and throws a paper out of the car these days.
Yeah.
Back then it was kids and, you know, on a bike with a big ass basket on the front of it.
Yeah, that's right.
Or a pouch, you know, and so we kind of grew up working in, you know, we started out cutting grass and, at the age of 8 today, oh my God, you know, a kid's going to get hurt from, gotta cut grass, or we shoveled snow, or we did whatever we could. One of our cousins, they were a little wealthier, not a little, they were a lot wealthier than us, but my dad's cousin owned a store, like, you know, where you would buy a Christmas tree, like what do you call it?
Like a hardware store or something?
You know, like a nursery kind of nursery.
Oh, a nursery. Okay.
And, you know, it had seasonal stuff, nursery furniture and all that. And in the summer when we were little, like really young, my brother and I would go and we would be allowed to wrap Christmas trees that people selected and wrap it with the twine and carry it out.
Oh, okay.
We worked for a tip. And even back then, we were the only 2 white kids on the lot. Like,
really,
everybody else was a black kid. Because by that time, even in the early 60s, Camden had turned over from more of an ethnic area to more of an area like Baltimore is today, more of an African community. And so, yeah, we used to go there and wrap trees and carry them out, and, you know, we'd get a quarter or a dime or something, you know, and throw some in our pocket. And
hey, that was big money back then. Yeah.
You know, AJ, I just remember doing anything I could to make a buck.
Yeah.
You know, because my mom and dad didn't have money to give to us. So if we wanted to, you know, so my dad was a milkman, and then he was a food broker for a while. And that's a guy that would go into stores, and it was much more manual than it is today. Like, you would go in, oh, you need, you know, 5 more cases of Progresso spaghetti, whatever they represented, you know, and he would get those orders, and sometimes he would actually deliver those orders. And, you know, we grew up, Camden's not that far from the Jersey Shore. A lot of people don't realize that, but it's, you know, we're like just over an hour to the beach, you know,
right.
City and stuff like that. And so a vacation for us was either going to the Jersey Shore or going camping. And I can remember like it was yesterday. Now I'm 67 years old, AJ, and I can remember like it was yesterday going down to the Jersey Shore. My dad was working, so he wasn't there with us all week, but he went down on Saturday. My mom drove a separate car, and we would go down the Atlantic City Expressway, and we would have to pull over every 20 minutes or half an hour where there was like some water along the side of the road, and get some water and pour it into the radiator because the car was overheating the whole freaking way down to the shore. And stuff, you know? And my mom had the better car, the one that didn't overheat. And so we got down there, and, you know, we went down, and they didn't have a reservation. They just went down with the hopes that they could find something for us. And I remember so distinctly looking around, and they got a place, and I remember how much it was $60 for the week, $60 for the week.
Wow.
And it was the first floor of one of those typical beach, houses where the first
Right.
floor often is like storage now or parking, and then the
Mhm.
second level, third level. Well, they rented the bottom level, and it had like a screen porch on the front and the back, and then some basic, amenities inside. And it was right across from the beach. We literally walked out. We paid $60. We walked out the front door, went to the beach, and we were like the rich kids that were staying at the fancy hotel.
That's awesome.
And so we had some pretty good memories going up. We weren't
Yeah.
people of means, but they did what we could, and we often would go camping. We would go up to a favorite place of ours was to go up to Sebago Lake in Maine,
Okay.
outside of Portland, and we have a lot of good memories there. We would, and we all were allowed to like invite a friend. So
Oh, that's cool.
it was my dad, my mom, and we had one of those, 60s, early 70s vintage station wagons that were like 22 feet long. The seats were put down in the back.
Yeah.
They were in the front. My little brother, he was 10 years younger than me. I think he was a babe in arms in the front, not in a car seat or anything, just like, my mother holding him in the front. And then there were, I did not distinctly have a friend. So my sister had a friend, my brother had a friend. I did not have a friend. So there were 3 of us and 2 kids. That's 5 kids just kind of laying in the back. We had 2 St. Bernards, and we had,
Oh, jeez.
not making this shit up, man. We had 2 St. Bernards and 2 Dachshunds and 5 kids, not a seatbelt anywhere to be found. And just
Oh
like
my God.
laying in the back. We were like,
That's fantastic.
of course, we weren't wealthy. We were tent campers. So on top of the car was piled all the tent stuff.
Right.
Top. Yeah. And of course, my dad smoked back then. So he was smoking.
Yeah. That's
We would
awesome.
all like be arrested in my, we would detective services.
That's right. Oh man, times have changed.
Yeah, and but they worked hard, and they put us through school as best we could. When I got to kind of in about 7th grade, I want to say 7th grade was about my last year of Catholic school, and then we moved to another area a little further away from Camden, an area called Berlin, New Jersey, West Berlin, New Jersey, and they bought a 2-bedroom house there, and my younger brother and sister got one of the bedrooms. My parents got one of the bedrooms, and then my brother and I lived in the basement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had like our own room, but it was a room in a basement.
Yeah.
And, so that was kind of an upgrade actually from where we were living closer to Camden, to be honest with you. And so yeah, that's kind of where I finished growing up, and eventually went to high school. I went to a regional high school in South Jersey. It was called Edgewood Regional High School. It was not the best high school. I did not get that great in education. I remember having one math class in all of high school.
Really?
Yeah, one, because I was stereotyped. I was an Italian kid in South Jersey in this season 7. It's just like being a black kid in Baltimore today.
Yeah.
You're stereotyped. You're like there were no expectations.
Yeah.
So nobody was going to spend any time with me. I wasn't going to go to college. I was going to, end up in the trades.
Yeah.
And you asked, what led to joining the military. It's really, I didn't want to end up in the trades. I really thought, there should be more. And by the time I was in high school, I was smoking pot and drinking, warm wine on Friday and Saturday night, and I never got in any real trouble. I was never arrested in my life, to this very day. Knock on wood, but we did shit that we might have could have should have. Back then. But most of it was pretty innocuous stuff, by today's standards.
Right.
And, my brother and I were pretty close. My sister and I were pretty close. My younger brother was 10 years apart, so he was still a little kid when I went in the military. My brother died a few years ago. He just drank himself to death, and was 100 pounds overweight. And I have obesity on my side of the family. My sister was heavy. One of my daughters is heavy. I'm not, and that's intentional, because I run a men's health clinic, and I can't be the fat guy who runs a men's health clinic. And,
right. Yeah, that makes sense.
I was in the military, right? I started out as a rescue swimmer.
Wow.
So that kind of, my early days, we grew up, we were not people of means, but we did okay, and we had some aspirations and dreams. In retrospect, I'm really surprised my mom didn't. She was third in her high school class and first in her nursing class, that she never held us accountable for, on the education side of the house.
That's pretty interesting,
right? Like, it was just expected we were going to end up like my dad,
Yeah. Huh.
And, which was, just job to job, his whole life. The most stable job he had was later in life, is when the casinos opened down in Atlantic City. He applied for and became a blackjack dealer.
Oh, wow.
And so they eventually ended up moving down to the shore. This was after I went in the military, and lived in Ocean City, New Jersey. And that was, we always grew up in and around the beach. And that was kind of one of our dreams, to be able to afford to go to the beach. And so they actually ended up doing that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm, I went in the Nav. My older brother did not go to college. Nobody I went to high school with in my graduating class in 1976 that was in my friend group went to college.
No kidding.
Nobody.
Wow.
And, I have one friend who she played basketball. She was a year behind me. She was in 77, and she went down, and I think she might have played at North Carolina or South Carolina, but at a decent basketball school. She was the only person that even went to college.
Wow.
So I didn't know that I could achieve anything academically, because no one prepared me for it. No, there was no expectation that I would go to college. And
right.
So after I went in the Nav, did I answer your question? How did I grow up? Where did I grow up?
Oh, no, you're doing fantastic. This is great. Yeah.
Okay. I was pretty close with my siblings, but by the time I got to be 17, it was time for me to get out of there, because I really felt that I was going to either end up digging ditches or in trouble.
Right.
And in fact, a lot of the guys that I graduated high school with ended up digging ditches or in trouble. And I escaped that. And I had a dear friend, his name is John Shendok, and John and I were supposed to go in the Navy on the buddy program. And so the recruiter came to my house. I was 17. My dad had to sign for me to go in. We went down to John's house. John lived a few miles away from me. And his dad said, "I'm not signing for you to do nothing." He said, "You'll be in the before anything happens." And his dad was probably right. John probably would have ended up in the brig. So I ended up as a rescue swimmer, as an anti-submarine repair operator and rescue swimmer, flying out of H-3 helicopters. And John,
what was it? What was it that drew you guys to the Navy?
We were both kind of from the same thing. Neither of us were prepared to do anything else. John's father was a truck driver. John's mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad, never really accomplished anything, academically. Nothing. Neither of us were prepared to go to college.
Yeah.
And, collectively we were friends, and we decided maybe the military was a way out. It was, the Vietnam War was winding down, so we were like,
Right.
oh, we don't need to go to Vietnam and get killed or anything, but maybe this is a way out of this place. And for me, it was a life-changing out. I can't.
Right.
I'll chat more, as we go along about how it impacted my life in an unbelievably positive way. But John, my friend John, who is still over 50 years later, still my friend.
Nice.
And, when last month my ex-wife died, John and his wife came down because they actually stood for us when we got married.
Oh, wow.
And so I've been divorced a long, long time ago, but we've stayed friends through that.
Yeah.
I lost a daughter 2 years ago in June. First people to show up.
Nice. That's awesome.
From New Jersey with fresh cooked Italian food, the next day after my daughter died.
Wow.
John,
that's what friendship should be right there.
Yep. Yep. To this day. And a couple weeks ago, we met them at the Jersey Shore for the weekend, and they still live in South Jersey, so they're like just an hour away from where we were staying. And so, I'm still going to the Jersey Shore when I can. And,
very nice.
Yeah. So I went in and enlisted, and was going to be an anti-submarine warfare operator, and that's a guy that operates either sonar or sonobuoys or radar or magnetic anomaly detection on a helicopter that flies off of carriers. And back when it was an H-3. Today they fly. The mission is flown from the H-60, which virtually everybody knows what an H-60 looks like. The Army flies them. Everybody flies them. We flew in the H-3. But before you could qualify to operate the equipment, since there were only 2 crewmen on board, it was a four crew, pilot, co-pilot, first crewman and a second crewman. Before you could even qualify to operate the equipment, you had to qualify as a search and rescue swimmer.
No kidding.
Yeah, because if you didn't qualify, they weren't going to waste time. You weren't going to just go in and operate the equipment. You had to be in that role because when that plane launched, the junior person in the back of the aircraft had to be a rescue swimmer. That was
kidding. Wow.
The core mission. So yeah. And so we I went to I joined in April of 76 and went to boot camp in Great Lakes. Ham's Heroes, Company 108. Why I friggin' remember that, I have no idea. And it was, it was a lot of other kids from, the East Coast. And, I was kind of afraid. I was there by myself, but I did okay. I didn't get, didn't get any trouble, and, kept my nose clean, and was able to go to the A school. The first school out of boot camp was down in Millington, Tennessee. And that was the initial training to be this anti-submarine warfare operator. But it's also a screening for this rescue swimmer thing. So submarine warfare initial training. And then from there, you were selected for either P3s or S3s or H3s, right? The big 4-engine plane P3. S3 was a smaller jet that flew off a carrier, all anti-submarine warfare or helicopters. So as I recall it, they tested all of us that were in anti-submarine warfare school to see, who could swim.
Right.
So, I did not swim in high school or anything like that, but I was, had always grown up in and around the water and was a proficient swimmer. So I was selected to go into the helicopter program, and ended up, my first duty assignment was, my next training assignment was in Imperial Beach, California, which is just south of San Diego. It's actually the most southwestern city in the United States is Imperial Beach. And
No kidding.
Yeah. Yep.
So I didn't know that.
Yeah. Imperial Beach, California is the most southwestern city. If you go to the end of the beach there's a river that is kind of the border. There's fencing going there now. And on the other side of it is Tijuana. And we would go down, we'd get high and go down there and watch the Mexicans swim across the river. And that's why they were called wetbacks, because they would go into the river, and there's rivers all along the southern border, and that's where that term wetback comes from, actually. But we would go down, and back then there was nobody chasing them, or people just came. They were just looking for a better life, just kind of like they are now. Most people that are crossing the border are just looking for a better life. And so we lived down there for a while, and then lived in a place right on the beach, and we were all issued wetsuits and fins and masks. So when we weren't working, we'd be body surfing or boogie boarding or something.
Nice.
Right? We were right in the Pacific, and I lived right at the beach. We crossed the street, and you were on the beach. And
nice.
Yeah. And eventually, the squadrons were moved up to North Island, which is in Coronado, which is that island you see when you're in San Diego, and there's those two big domed hangars. A lot of people are familiar with that. So we moved from Imperial Beach up to North Island, and that's where I qualified at Helicopter Anti-Submarine Warfare Squadron 10, which was the training squadron, and then eventually was assigned to HS4, the Black Knights, and we flew the USS Ranger, which was an aircraft carrier stationed in San Diego.
Okay.
That's how I ended up. So, Great Lakes, Millington, Tennessee for initial A school, some initial training down in Imperial Beach, and then just a little bit north to Coronado. And
right.
I was yeah, go ahead, AJ.
Oh, sorry. When you got stationed with the unit, was it your choice, or is it just they told us where you're going to go?
That's where you're going. Okay.
Yeah.
Next up,
it happens.
They needed some more rescue swimmers and AWs, in HS4, and so I went there, and we flew off of the Ranger, which was stationed right at North Island, and so we did workups, and then eventually went on a deployment in the Western Pacific.
Okay.
And ended up going to the Philippines and Hawaii and places like that, all out west. And I was actually on a short program. It was a 3x6 that I signed up for, go in for 3 years active and then 3 years in the reserve. So after 3 years, I was actually discharged. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but after being in San Diego for about a year, a girl that I knew in high school, we didn't date or anything, but she went to the same high school. She ended up moving out to San Diego. We met, we connected, and we eventually got married. And that's my ex-wife that died just last month.
Right.
And that's who I had my 3 children with, Jesse, Javi, and Hannah.
So you met her, or not met her? You guys got married in San Diego.
No. We actually after I got out, as I was getting out at the 3-year point, we were going to move back to New Jersey. Chris was pregnant, right before we were. So my ex-wife, the person to become my wife, was pregnant with our first son, Jesse. My only son, Jesse. And when we got back there, I thought, oh hell, now what am I going to do? I got a pregnant girlfriend and no job. And I said, you know what? The Navy was pretty good to me, and I re-enlisted.
Okay.
And was sent almost immediately back to Helicopter Anti-Submarine Warfare Squadron 10, where I became an instructor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My training assignment was HS10. I went to HS4, got out, and then got reassigned right back to HS-10 to be an instructor.
Wow.
So I was in I guess I made E5 at that point. Here's
Okay.
the thing. Remember I said I was never academically challenged or anything. But here's something I learned when I went in the Navy. I wasn't as stupid as everybody led me to believe.
That's a funny way of putting it. Yeah.
I was, once you got past E3, you had to take a test for E4, E5, E6, E7, and so on. And when I started taking those tests for promotion, I was getting promoted and the knuckleheads around me weren't. So when I went back in, I thought, you know what? I've got a child coming. I better get my act together.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I was E4, about to make E5, and that was a shore duty assignment. That training assignment was shore duty. And I said,
see.
I have kids, so I started going to community college, and started going to college, and started thinking about what's next.
Right.
Like, if I'm going to be in the Navy. They pay for your education. They pay for us to go to community college. Well, why don't I do that? And at one point I got my mind, well, I want to become an officer. I guess that was about when I made E5, and Jesse was, a year old or so. And so that became a goal. Transition from being an enlisted guy to becoming an officer, with really the intent of becoming a pilot. I mean, that's what I really wanted to do.
Oh, I see.
Was become a pilot. And
would that be a helicopter pilot or?
Well, it would not be predetermined. It would be, how I did in aviation training. I did not become a pilot, by the way. I became a surface warfare officer and ended up driving carriers. But my intention was to go to school, get commissioned, and go to flight school. Well, I did enough college on my own to apply for one of these transition programs called the Enlisted Commissioning Program. And so I was preparing for that for the better part of a year. And it was now time for me to be reassigned. And if you're going to stay and continue to promote, if you wanted to make E6 or E7, you needed to go from one platform to another. So I had been in for 6 years. So I needed to go into a fixed wing aircraft, either S3s or P3s. And I was selected to go to P3s, big 4-engine patrol plane. And that was in Jacksonville, Florida. So we moved to Jacksonville, Florida, and I was in the VP RAG there. The RAG is what they call the training facility for that type of platform. Okay. And was training to be a sensor 3 operator there. So I was training to use synthetic aperture radar, magnetic detection, and things like that. And while I was there, just as I finished that training and would have gone to the fleet, I was selected for the enlisted commissioning program. And there were 10 schools that you could go to, and they basically just told me I was going to the University of Kansas.
No kidding.
Yeah. So so I ended up, I had no relationship to Kansas, and we packed our bags and ended up in Lawrence, Kansas.
Wow. I mean, nowadays they can go to any school, or not any school, but there's a bunch of schools that they can go to for that, isn't there?
There were 10 at the time, and but there wasn't. I don't really recall all of the details, but I think we could choose 3. Kansas was one of those I chose, and it was whatever one selected us and permitted us to go, like accepted us into the college. And Kansas accepted me into the program, based on my my work in community college. And I became part of the ROTC program at the University of Kansas, which at the time was a big program. There was like 100 of us in the program.
Oh wow!
And knowing that I wanted to be a pilot, I studied atmospheric science. So
Ah,
the weather, it was,
yeah.
I figure if I'm going to fly in the air, I might as well know about so
That makes sense. Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So I did that. And when it came time to get commissioned, when you're commissioned, you're not just commissioned as an ensign, okay, or
Hmm.
a second lieutenant in one of the other branches. You're commissioned as an ensign in a certain community. So that's when you
Ah,
elected to be a pilot or a surface warfare officer or an engineering officer or whatever, JAG,
right.
whatever. And so when it was time for me to apply for commissioning, I applied and was not selected to be a pilot, and
Wow.
was devastated, as you might,
Yeah.
because that was the whole thing.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that was
that,
the reason for it, you know?
yeah, yeah, and I did well in I wasn't a 4.0 student, but I think I was like
Hmm.
a 3.3 or something student.
Yeah.
So I did okay. And while I was there, I was actually selected to be the midshipman battalion commander. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
in ROTC, there was like this, kind of rank structure, right? The
Hmm.
Flappers juniors. And then in my senior year, I was actually selected to be the battalion commander based on my leadership skills that were observed by my commanding officer, who was one of the coolest guys and most interesting guys. His name was Mike Wiley. He was a
Okay.
he was a Marine Corps officer, full colonel, and he was at the University of Kansas. He was a decorated guy, and his first assignment in Vietnam, his commanding officer actually was a super famous guy that became a Secretary of the Navy. So his first commanding officer went on to become the Secretary of the Navy, and a
Wow.
famous author. His name is James Webb. Many people
Oh,
will know who James Webb is, and so
yeah.
Mike, his first commanding officer was James Webb, and he became a super interesting guy in my life, and really was supportive of me and in my career and getting commissioned. And he's the one that said that designated me as the midshipman battalion commander. And
Right.
so I had a really
Huh.
great and so he was a guy of strong ethical standards, and
Hmm.
he was really an accomplished officer. And many people will be thinking, then why the hell was he the CO of a ROTC unit? Well, his parents were his dad was sick, and
Mm,
he was from Kansas City, so it was kind
yeah.
of an assignment so that he could be near his father while his father was dying.
Yeah.
After he left, and while we were there, James Webb came and spoke to us as midshipman. He was that tight with
No
it.
kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is cool.
And I had dinner with James Webb. I sat at his table because I was the battalion commander at the time.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I had dinner with James Webb and Mike. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. That was my first run-in with somebody that was going to be Secretary of the Navy. I had another one later. So we were commissioned out of there. And but let me just a little bit more about Mike. So Colonel Mike Wiley, he was a really ethical guy and really was one of the early authors of what is now known and has been known for 40 years as maneuver warfare
Hmm.
in the Marine Corps. And so Mike was one of the early proponents of maneuver warfare. And Mike was fired for cause 3 times. 3 times.
Wow.
He was removed from command 3 times. The last time,
That's impressive.
right? The last time he was fired for cause, he wrote a paper about maneuver warfare, and it was being shit on by other traditional people, right? It wasn't
Right.
the thing, traditional Marine Corps. And so he wrote a point paper, and he submitted it, and it got rejected. But he knew the guy that was the commandant of the Marine Corps, and the commandant asked for the paper. So he sent the commandant of the Marine Corps this paper that had got shit on by his own command.
Yeah.
And a few weeks later, his commanding officer was a 2-star, called him into the office, and Mike went in, and he didn't have his glasses with him, but the 2-star threw this paper across him and said, "Wiley, is that your signature? Is this your paper?" And all he could tell was his signature. He had no idea what the paper was, but it was in fact the paper on maneuver warfare that the 2-star had shit on.
Oh, wow.
And he said, "Yes, sir, that's my signature." "Then you're fired." And he got fired for the last time. And after Mike was fired for the last time, they finally kind of worked him out. But not long after that, he was actually profiled in the Wall Street Journal.
Really?
When maneuver warfare was finally adopted, about how maneuver warfare kind of came to be a thing in the Marine Corps, and a guy named Mike Wiley, it cost him his career, but then it was finally adopted.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's interesting. I haven't heard that story before.
Yeah, that guy was my commanding officer when I went through ROTC.
Wow.
Not just some knucklehead that got, that wanted to have, be on autopilot and for the last few years of his career, which is often who has those roles, but that wasn't the case. So, So I wasn't selected to be a pilot. I was selected to be because I had studied the weather. I was selected to be an oceanographer.
Okay.
So I was actually commissioned as an oceanographer, and then went on to qualify as a surface warfare officer.
Okay.
Yeah, on board carriers. And my first duty assignment was in Rota, Spain. And so
that's tough, man.
We went with a babe in arms. We'd had our third child, just shortly before I was commissioned. And so the 5 of us packed up and went to southern Spain and lived there for 3 years. And we lived off base for a while, and then we moved on base because my son was starting school.
Okay.
And actually, his first day of school was, we were living out in town, and they sent a bus out in town and collected the kids that lived out in town. And there were armed guards on the bus because it was the first day that we attacked Libya. There was a time when the U.S. went in and attacked Libya. Muammar Gaddafi was still, running the country back then. This would have been in 86, I guess. Yeah, I want to say it was 86. And so that was just experience going to school on a school bus with armed guards. And
what a first experience going to school. Holy cow.
First day on the bus going to school. And, so we lived there for 3 years, and I worked at the anti-submarine warfare operations center there, where we directed the activities of the P-3 aircraft that were hunting for submarines that were going into the Mediterranean.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I was, my collateral duty, I was the administrative officer for the command. And then my watch duty, I was, planning the missions. So we were doing mission planning. We would brief the crews, and we would tell them where to go and what types of sonobuoys to put in and what patterns to put in, what the characteristics of the submarines were that they were looking for. And then, so the mission planning, and then the post-mission debriefs. They would bring all their tapes. So they would record everything that they did, all the search. They would bring the tapes back, and we would analyze the tapes. And sometimes we would find the submarines in the analysis post them coming back, like they didn't detect them while they were in the air with the equipment they had. But we had specialized equipment back at the center, and we would then find out that, oh wait, you actually were in contact with the submarine at this place at this time. So then we would update the next mission based on that localization information.
Yeah.
And our boss was, we were part of the 6th Fleet. We were CTG 67.2. So we were part of the 6th Fleet. And our boss was in Italy. So we got, we were associated with aviation. So we were constantly jumping on an airplane going somewhere.
Yeah.
And so we had a sister unit in Sigonella, Sicily. They did the same thing that we did, and we would support them. They would support us. So there were always people going back and forth between Italy and Spain. So we would get to go to Italy often, and France, and I was able to be like one of the officers to do planning for NATO at a NATO facility in Portugal, and that was cool. And sometimes we were able, because we could drive to Portugal. It was,
oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so we would drive. We could take our family, and so we would
nice.
Go,
okay.
Kind of had a hookup, right, because they were paying for the hotel, and so we were able to do some stuff like that, and then we got to go to Italy as a family because we had the planes going back and forth all the time, relocating families that were deploying and coming home from deployment and all that. So
right.
Yeah, it was actually, a pretty good first experience for a young officer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I made lieutenant junior grade there, and yeah. And then my next duty assignment was in DC, and it was at a place called the Naval Polar Oceanography Center, and we did all the analysis of weather in the Arctic and the Antarctic.
No kidding.
Yeah. It was a command in Suitland, Maryland, but we had a collateral duty, and that collateral duty was our officers and enlisted people developed the briefing materials for the Secretary of the Navy and the Chief of Naval Operations at the Pentagon, which was 20 minutes away.
Yeah. So
once I made lieutenant, I was selected to become a SecNav CNO briefer. And this was during the first Gulf War. And so I would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, schlep down to Suitland, pick up my briefing materials. Then I would go over to the Pentagon into the executive the briefing areas where there was a 2-star that ran all the briefings. He was a 2-star submariner, hard ass guy.
Yeah.
But was very kind to me when it came to my next duty assignment. And so the briefing started at either 7 or 7:30. The Secretary of the Navy would come in, the Undersecretary of the Navy, Chief of Naval Operations would be there, Vice Chief.
Yeah.
You didn't hit a 2-star until you were 5 rows deep. And it was, started off with intel brief, then an operations brief, and then an environmental brief. And then, other briefers, timely briefers would come in. And I did that 4 days a week.
Wow. Okay.
There was another officer, Kathy Garcia. I think that was Kathy's last name. Pretty sure. Kathy did the other. She was more senior than me, so she got there 3 days. I had to do it 4 days.
Oh, I see.
So I was lieutenant. She was lieutenant commander, and so I did it. 4 days a week. And interesting. The space that I used to work in was the space that on 9/11 was hit.
No kidding.
Yeah. So that room that I used to be in every day, and those kids, those aerographers mates that prepared those materials, some of the aerographers mates that not the same people, but they were in that same that same location, they were killed on 9/11.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that's surreal.
Yeah. In that same place that I used to go 4 days a week.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah. And I wanted to so that was I got some really cool opportunities while I was there. So so we were at the Naval Polar Oceanography Center. So my commanding officer, he had a buddy that was the commanding officer of a ballistic missile submarine, and he thought it was cool if one of the guys from my command, where his buddy was the commanding officer, rode along with them and taught his junior officers about the environment, about oceanography. And so I was selected to go to Holy Loch, Scotland, and join a ballistic missile patrol on board SSBN 616, the USS Lafayette. So I would have been a lieutenant at the time. And I was welcomed aboard and welcomed into the wardroom, and slept in the forward. There weren't any extra officer quarters, so I slept in the forward torpedo room, literally one arm touching the bulkhead, the other arm hanging off because the racks were so small. And then when you had to literally like jump down and step over torpedoes to get in and out, get in and out of your rack.
Wow.
And
that's impressive.
Well, I did that, and that was that was a really cool experience. And
now that was your first experience on a sub.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was making a ballistic missile patrol with
wow.
The blue crew of I believe it was the blue crew of the Lafayette, and so that was a really unique experience. And and then also, while at the same command, the Naval Polar Oceanography Command at that time, they still do these things. I don't know how often they do them, but there were these exercises called ICEX. And what we would do is we would go to Thule, Greenland, and we would bring a bunch of P3s, patrol planes, up there. Yeah. And we would hunt for submarines. We would do these anti-submarine warfare exercises. And so typically a P3 carries a bunch, I don't know, I remember 80, a 90, 100, I don't know, a bunch of sonobuoys, these buoys that were about that big around, about this tall, 40, maybe 40 tall or something. And we used to bomb those out of the aircraft and into the water, and a hydrophone would deploy, and we would listen and hunt for submarines. But in the Arctic, obviously, you're not dropping that through the ice.
Right.
We had these specially modified buoys that had a pick on them, and they would stick in the ice, and the kinetic energy of them falling in, it would temporarily melt the ice, and then it would immediately freeze right around it. So you got a good conductor.
Oh, so wow.
We would go up there, and this was all, experimental shit. And and then we had these models. So remember, I did environmental forecasting as an oceanographer.
Right.
We also did the environmental forecasting for acoustic propagation and the weather for the flights going up to the pole, and then the acoustic propagation characteristics to figure out how far we might be able to track someone, when we might be able to detect them, all that kind of stuff. And so that was really cool. And while I was up in Thule, Greenland, I wanted to go to the North Pole since we were close, and that's where we're in operations. So I hitched a ride one day. And I still had my air crew wings, and I was still eligible to collect flight pay. So I was still flying even after I left my enlisted role years before. I was still collecting flight pay. And so I hopped on a P3. We went up to the North Pole. We conducted our operations. And as we're getting ready to leave, the flight engineer yells, "Hey, there's somebody down there. There's somebody down there. Mark on top." And everybody collectively gets on. "Shut the up. You're full of shit. We're at the North Pole. Nobody's down there." And he's like, "No, I swear." So he had hit the mark on top button because he sits between the two pilots,
Yeah.
So we came up, and the pilots are like, "Okay, everybody man the windows." We come up, power around, we mark on top. Son of a bitch, there were two guys at the North Pole.
What?
Two guys at the North Pole. They
were just exploring, or?
Yeah, they were a Norwegian expedition, walking expedition to the North Pole. So they had left northern Canada.
Oh my God.
Right? They'd left northern Canada weeks before, and were walking to the pole, and in fact had gotten to the pole a few days before we came across them.
Wow.
And they had been unable to contact their base camp.
Oh no.
So we marked on top, and we came up. There's an international radio frequency on VHF. I forget what it is, 121.1 or 0 or something like that. We came up on it, and they also came up on it, and they're like, "Hey, U.S. Navy patrol plane, we're these guys," and they gave us their names, and then they gave us the radio frequency of their base camp, and so we were able to climb up, right? And in HF radio, we're able to contact their base camp in Canada. Hey, we came across, we got these guys, we gave us, or and we're thinking extremist situation, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, how they doing?" Do you know where they are? So we have coordinates. Tell them we're going to plane up there to get them out as soon as we can. But the weather's really been dog shit, and they should have enough food, right? Are they okay? And so we contact our base camp down in Thule, and they're like, "Wow, mark on top. These are, we're thinking in terms Navy guys. You find someone stranded at sea, you have to provide aid.
Yeah.
You provide aid. Like if somebody's in a ship that's sinking in the middle of the ocean, you must provide aid."
Right.
And so our mindset was we need to provide aid. So we got these sonobuoy tubes, the tube that the sonobuoys come in. There are these big gray tubes. And we opened up, and we just took everything we had on board: cigarettes, magazines, food, anything we had on board. So we dropped down several tubes of just stuff that we've got, extra batteries, for the radios and stuff. And then every day for like the next 4, 5, 6 days, however long it took for their plane to get up there, because they they had like some kind of otter, some kind of smaller plane that could actually land on the ice. We couldn't land up there. We were too big to land.
Yeah.
Every day we would go up when we were not me personally, but any aircraft that went up there, they were tasked to relocate these guys and update their position and pass it back to their base camp. And eventually they came in and got them. All right.
Wow.
So this is like in March or April, I want to say.
Okay.
So I'm living in Maryland. I'm back from Greenland. I'm at church on Sunday morning, and I was in Sunday school or something. I forgot. And somebody that hadn't seen me for a little while was like, "Hey, what have you been up to, Tony?" "Oh, I've been to the North Pole." And he's like, and it was while we were all together in the Sunday school environment. And he's like, "Oh, you're at the North Pole? I just got my National Geographic. I read this really interesting story about these guys that walked to the North Pole. And they told a story about being found by a U.S. Navy patrol plane." And I'm like, "Dude, I was on that U.S. Navy patrol plane."
Wow.
Yeah. And so true story in National Geographic. And I told that story to my one of my best friends here in Maryland. His name is Jeff. And about 5 Christmases ago, I told him that story. And you know what I got for Christmas? A copy of that National Geographic.
Did you really? Wow, that's cool.
He was able to find a copy of that National Geographic and gave it to me.
Wow.
So I actually have that. Yeah. So
that is really cool. Do you have it like framed up somewhere, or?
No, it's on a bookshelf. Yeah.
Yeah. No kidding. Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool story. And so after I that was a 3-year assignment in DC, and I was looking for my next duty assignment, and we had gotten a new admiral in my community. We had oceanographers had a 1-star admiral. We had 1 admiral. We had 26 captains and 1 admiral. And
holy cow! That promotion rate was crazy.
Yeah. And so it just happened as I was ending my my time in DC that a new admiral was selected.
Okay.
And lo and behold, the guy that was selected for admiral was a captain at the Weather Center in Rota, Spain, on my first duty assignment.
Oh, okay.
One of the things he did, he was the scoutmaster. And guess whose son was in his scout patrol? My son.
No kidding.
So he was becoming the new admiral. His name was John.
Wow.
Just a lovely man, and super wicked smart. And so I, having known Admiral Chubb, went to my detailer and said, "Hey, I'd like to be considered to be the admiral's aide." They basically told me to go F myself. They were like,
That's nice of them.
like, no chance, DAgostino. You're just not aid material. And this was kind of a theme running through my entire career, to be honest with you. No, that's not for you. No. And so I was basically told that's just not going to happen. Well, I knew John Chubb. And
Yeah.
he was stationed in DC at the time too. And I said, Captain, Admiral, can I get some time with you? And he said, absolutely, Tony. Yeah, how you been? Blah, 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 blah. So I went to see him. I told him what the detailer told me. And he said, well, that's not their decision now, is it? It's my decision who my aide is. And he said,
that makes sense.
Right. And he said, thanks for coming to see me. He said, I can't promise you the role, but I can promise you'll be in the conversation.
Nice.
And so then I got a call from my detailer saying, what the hell did you do? And, you're stepping out of line. And I'm like, well, you guys aren't going to help me with my career, which is what your job is, right? Which is what your job is. So guess who got selected to be the admiral's aide?
Nice. Yeah.
The non-admiral's aide material. So
that's good.
I went from Washington, D.C. The command that the admiral ran was in Stennis Space Center down in Mississippi. It's right one exit before the Louisiana border. So it's about as far west in Mississippi and about as far south as you could go. It's right along Interstate 10. It was a NASA facility, but it also had a large Navy presence. And it's where one of two supercomputer sites were.
Okay.
So the Admiral's Command was there, and then there was a supercomputer site, and then the NASA, it was where they tested rocket engines. It was a testing site. And so I was assigned down there and lived in the bachelor officers' quarters, which were in Gulfport, Mississippi, maybe, I think it was like maybe 40 minutes away or something like that, less than an hour.
Okay.
Like that. And the Admiral lived over that way, and we actually like carpooled and stuff into work. And
nice.
And in that role, we did a lot of traveling.
Oh yeah.
And so the Admiral, his command was a global command. We ran research ships, large research ships, as well as coastal research ships. And then we had all these aviation forecasting commands. And then we had these oceanography commands. We had the Joint Typhoon Warning Center that operated out of Guam.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah. We had all these international agreements on data sharing. So we would send our ships in and we would collect bathymetry data all around the world, or we'd send coastal ships in. And then, like, if you were the Thai Navy, like you were in Thailand, you had regional ships and you were collecting information, and we would enter into these agreements. So as the Admiral's aide, I got to go to Thailand and Japan and China and Guam and all over the Pacific. We went to Italy and Spain and all, over Europe. And I was the guy that, as the aide, that set up all the transportation and the protocol.
Yeah.
And, all the stuff about bringing a flag officer onto a facility. So had, really great experiences with Admiral Chubb. And but
Now,
I've got to tell you, the other way I got that job. Not only did I know Admiral Chubb, but remember I told you it was a SecNavCino briefer, and there was a 2-star
yeah.
screener that ran that briefing program, and he took a shining to me, and he was always good. He was a hard ass, but he was always, he always treated me well. I said to him, I can't remember his name, but I can tell you the Secretary of the Navy's name. The Secretary of the Navy at the time was H. Lawrence Garrett III.
Okay.
When I was going up to for the Admiral's aide, I thought, I wonder if the Secretary would give me a letter of recommendation. No, but nobody asked for that.
Yeah.
And so I asked the 2-star, whatever his name was. I was like, do you think the Secretary would give me a letter? And he's like, I'll ask him. I got a letter of recommendation from the Secretary of the Navy, and I put that in front of my detailer too.
Wow.
So I just jammed it up their asses, man, because they said, "Oh, you're not material." So
that's amazing.
No other candidate knew the Admiral and had a letter of recommendation from the Secretary of the Navy, as well as my fitness reports and all were. There was no reason they should have ever said that to me. The only reason they said it to me is because they had their buddies that they wanted to put into the role.
Oh, right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, which that's how the world works, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, so that's how I got that job. And
now, and you got that as a lieutenant?
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, I was an 03 as a flag lieutenant.
Yeah.
And Admiral Chubb was raised up as a surface warfare officer. We call black shoes, and aviators we call brown shoes now.
Right.
Although I came up, I was around aviation. I was a rescue swimmer. I flew in helicopters. I operated off the aircraft carriers.
Mm-hmm.
My whole career, my first duty assignment was at doing anti-submarine warfare with P3s. So I was always around aviation.
Right.
One of the things on my bucket list was I always wanted to fly with TAC Air, right? In a Hornet or a Tomcat or something like that. And those opportunities didn't really come along.
Mm-hmm.
But the Admiral got invited to go to strike warfare for like this 4-day conference where he was going to be meeting with other admirals and stuff. And strike warfare is in Fallon, Nevada. Now, when you saw the first Top Gun movie, it was in Miramar, California.
Right.
A long time ago, it actually moved out to Fallon, Nevada.
Right.
And so we knew well in advance that the Admiral was going to be going to this meeting in Fallon, Nevada, and I knew damn well who was stationed there, and that was Top Gun. And so I said to the Admiral, you want to go for a ride in an F-18 while we're out there? And he looked at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, sir, you're flag officer. Do you want to go for a ride in an F-18? He's like, DAgostino, what are you talking about? I'm like, sir, just tell me if you want to do it or not. And he's like, yeah, sure. Like, we're going to get to do that. I said, sure. Is that a yes? You would do it if we could do it? He said, yeah, of course I would. So I called the Admiral's aide out in Fallon, Nevada, where we were going, and said, hey, brother, what do you got to do to hook a fellow flag lieutenant up? Like, oh, well, you got to do this, this, and this. And here's who you got to call. So we had to get ejection seat qualified. We had to go through the Dilbert-Domer. And I think we had to do some chamber stuff, hyperbaric chamber stuff.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
There were a few things we had to do. And I had like 3 months or 4 months between we had to go to the conference between when we were going out there. I ran the guy's schedule, basically, me and the flag writer and, chief of staff who was a captain. So just like, okay, here's the 3 things we got to do. Put it on the Admiral's schedule. So we got our training done, and we went out, and the Admiral went on the flight, and he had a blast. Yeah. And he had to go into the conference. I wasn't part of this confab they were having. I was just there to support him, which gave me time to go flying. So nice. I, of course, hooked myself up The whole reason we went was because I was hooking myself up the admiral along because he's the guy that was able to enable it. And so I got to fly with Top Gun.
That is so cool.
Yeah. And so there's F-18 is predominantly a single seat aircraft, but there are training versions that are, F-18Bs or TF-18s, or, they have some, but there's 2-seat versions of F-18s.
Yeah.
And so the flight that where they had space for me was a full-on air combat maneuver training mission. So it was 2 F-18s. One of them was a single seat. The other was a dual seat, which I was in. And then the bad guys, the aggressors, were guys that were flying F-5s. I think F-5 and an A-4, as I recall. And so I got to go fly. And the pilot of the F-18 I was in, he wasn't even a Navy guy. He was an Air Force guy on an exchange program.
Really?
Yeah. So he was an Air Force guy that was going through Top Gun.
Wow.
It's got a proper name. It's strike warfare or something school.
Yeah.
Fighter school. But
that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got to fly in an F-18. I got to cross the Atlantic in a ballistic missile submarine. I got to go to the North Pole. I got to be an aide all over the world. And yeah, I just feel like, the Navy just changed my life, man.
Yeah.
And then after that assignment, they sent me to graduate school in Monterey, where I have 2 master's degrees. This is
holy cow.
This is the Italian kid from South Jersey that told he wasn't going to be anything but a ditch digger or working in the trade or something. And I went there, and I got to tell you, it was I struggled there. I ended up leaving with a 3.5 GPA, but I didn't have any of that. I did math and stuff when I was in college, when I finally went to college. But a lot of guys go to in those programs, they went to good high schools, and they went to good college, and then it's a building program. So, but I worked hard and succeeded there, and had a good time. So I have 2 masters. I have 1 piece of paper, just to be clear. I completed the coursework for a master's in meteorology, and completed the coursework for a master's in physical oceanography. And then together, 1 piece of paper called a master's in applied physics from the Navy school. So yeah, so the high school dropout that wasn't going anywhere ended up having his life changed by every opportunity the United States Navy ever gave me. And it continued to give me. So my next duty assignment after graduate school, if I wanted to make, lieutenant commander, or make commander, really, because I'd already been selected for lieutenant commander. The next thing
were you selected while you were at the school?
Yeah, I was selected while I was at the school. Yeah. And so I put it on while I was at school. And so I was 04 at school, and then I had to think about, how do I make 05? How do I make 06? Yeah. You're constantly doing this. Like, what's the next job to get me into the next promotion zone and, eligible for promotion.
Right.
And for me, that was being an oceanographer on board a carrier, where I could also qualify to be a surface warfare officer.
Okay.
And once again, I was told that's not going to happen. even after I was the aide, the next 8 hours started with the same shit again. Was
it the same people?
One of them was still the same.
Oh, okay.
And because I was the aide for 2 years, and then I was in school for 3 years. And the one guy he got extended there, and he was wrapping up his thing. So I heard the same bullshit over again. And my response was the same. Oh, really? You're going to tell me no? Let's see what happens. So I was.
I love it. This is great.
I was year group 86, right? So that's the year that I was commissioned.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the first person in my year group to be selected to go be a carrier oceanographer.
No kidding.
No, thank you, Mr. Oceanography detailer, you jerks. You're still
Still holding a grudge.
30 years later. You're still. Of course, I'm only kidding. I'd love to have a beer.
That's funny. Now, how did you get selected for that?
I worked the detailer. I said, you know what?
Yeah.
You don't have any grounds to not put me in that job.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Admiral Chubb actually had to pick up the phone because he was still the admiral. And, you know,
Yeah.
he never really told me, but he may have made it happen. Because he was their boss.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, those detailers were oceanographers, and he was the
main.
He was the guy. And
wow.
So I gotta believe that was part of it. And that he took care of me. And I went there. And
either way, it doesn't matter. It worked out.
It worked out. And I went there and I busted my ass and I qualified faster than anybody had ever qualified to be a surface warfare officer on board John F. Kennedy than at that time than anybody ever did. And
wow. What is the normal time frame and what'd you do it in?
About 18 months, and I did it in 6.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's like a third of the time. That's crazy.
No, it was my complete focus. But I had my day job, which was running my division.
Yeah.
My other focus, I get like that with when I get something in my, and I had the support of my commanding officer, who went on to become a rear admiral, Ed Fay. And Ed was really good to me and allowed me to train. And I was lieutenant commander. The people that I was training, that were also training, they were like lieutenant junior grades or lieutenants.
Oh, really?
And you know what? I'll say it out loud. Yes, rank has its privilege.
Yeah.
I watches that I needed to qualify because I said I wanted the watches I needed to be qualified. And I had the support of the senior officers that ran those fills. They're like, oh, Tony's got that watch. He needs that to get qualified. Boom. In.
Wow.
And I'm sorry.
Well, it's not an easy process.
No, it's not. And you know, and I got some pushback from some of these young people. Oh, you're getting special treatment. I'm like, you know what? I've been doing this for 20 years. You've been doing it for 3. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you get a little help along the way. That's right.
Yeah.
And you'll earn it too. And so I eventually went on to qualify in very short order, made a full cruise to the Arabian Gulf. So I know exactly what it's like to take a carrier through the Strait of Hormuz. And I want to remind everyone.
Oh, wow.
It's not the Straits of Hormuz. It's a strait. And I learned
just one.
And I learned that as an ensign because I worked in southern Spain, and I put in a report one time that we had a carrier set up at the Straits of Gibraltar. It also is a singular strait. And the next morning I came in and had my balls busted royally by every officer in the command. And I learned one time it's a strait. And so
that's great.
Yeah. So really the kind of the pinnacle of my time. We were going into the Gulf, going through the strait. We went through at midnight, and because I was the senior officer of the deck, I was selected to be having the deck when we went through the strait that night. And
I see.
You know, we had our shooter out ahead of us, our cruiser. We had our oiler, our supply ship in tail. And I'm talking to the Omanis on one radio and the Iranians on the other radio. And Ed, our officer, his name was Captain Ed Fay. He went on to become an admiral. And Ed came onto the bridge, and he said my call sign. I had two call signs on when I was on the ship. It was either biker because I used to ride Harley Davidsons, and
Nice.
Ed, our commanding officer, he also used to ride Harley Davidsons, or Black Cloud, which is the traditional name for the guy that runs the weather office.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah. He said, biker, looks like you got things under control. I'm going up for a cigar.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, I guess I'm okay. He walked off the bridge.
Responsibility.
He walked off the bridge, and
you took it.
And yeah, I mean, that was my watch. I had the 12 to 4 watch, but here we are. We're just entering. He's like, I'm going up for a cigar. It's like, okay, Ed, call if I need you, Captain. That was, really kind of the pinnacle of my career. I think really was the time that I spent on board Kennedy, and it really led to the next chapter in my life.
Okay.
We came back from deployment. We were doing flight operations off of the East Coast of the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
There's this hookup program. You got to know somebody. I don't know if congressman or somebody, but I don't know exactly what it is. But if you knew somebody, you could get in this program, and they would fly you out to the carrier, and you would spend the night. So it was like mostly affluent people or people that are connected,
like civilians.
Civilians.
Yeah. Okay.
Civilians. So they fly out civilians, fly them out to the carrier. They trap. They spend the night. And then they either fly them off or you're in port the next day. So I had a friend who knew that my time in the Navy was, getting short. I was thinking about retiring in the next couple of years. He said, hey, I got a buddy coming out. I know you're interested in financial services, Wall Street stuff. Kind of had a hobby. I was, doing some trading and investing and learning about investing in that. And he said, my buddy's coming out, you should meet him. I'm like, I'm really busy when the ship's at sea, but I'll try to meet your friend. Well, his friend's name was Mickey Mazzara. And Mickey ran institutional equity trading at an investment bank in Baltimore called Alex Brown. Alex Brown is actually the first investment bank in the United States. And it was
really,
because of the shipping trade around, materials to and from Europe and out. So everything came into the port. So the first investment bank in the United States was Alex Brown. And at that time in the late 90s, they were really instrumental in all the tech IPOs. And so they would be on the cover of Dell and Microsoft and, all these big IPOs. So Mickey was 38 years old at the time. And Mick and I are the same age. And he came out, and I made time to meet him. And I took him down as far down into the engineering space as you can go. And I took him and I stood him in front of, there's 8 boilers on board John F. Kennedy, and 8 superheated steam boilers. And that's where everything starts, where you take chemical energy, fuel oil, and you convert it into thermal energy, right? Superheated steam. And from that, you go through the entire thermodynamic cycle of how a ship operates and how we convert energy and how we then extract every drop of energy from that superheated steam. It runs it runs the engines on the ship. It runs the catapults. It runs the ship service turbo generators. And each step of the way, you're extracting energy at 1,200 pounds, and then you step it down to 600 pounds, and then you step it down to whatever. You keep stepping it down, taking energy out all along the way. I stood Mickey in front of that boiler and yelling because it's really loud in there. And this is where it all starts. So I'm yelling, explaining to him. And then I take him up into the other spaces and I show him how we make water. And all along the way, I'm explaining to him scientifically. I'm not just going, and that's that makes water. No, I'm telling them about the thermodynamics cycle and about condensation and all of that. And so as we start to come up out of the engineering space, then we get up into the operational spaces, and we're talking about how the radar worked and how the communications worked and how the NTDS systems worked and how we shared information. And again, I'm not just going, and that's how the radar, I'm telling you how the radar works,
Right.
and the physics behind it, how it all works. And we finally get up to the bridge, and he's on watch with me for a little bit. And then I got him hooked up where he got to actually go out on the deck while they were launching. And then I got him hooked up to go stand in the back where they land the planes where the LSO, the landing signals, landing signals or landing safety. I forget what the S is for these days. Signals, I think, where you actually stand right next to where they're coming aboard. And so Mick did that, and he had a great time. And from that day forward to this very day, he's one of my best friends.
Wow.
Changed my life.
Yeah. That's awesome. See, that is what military service right there is perfect.
So that was about 2 years before I got ready to retire. And we just stayed in touch. Every once in a while, I talked to him. And then while I was still in the military, so after John F. Kennedy, I was sent back to Monterey again, and I worked at a supercomputer site out in Monterey, which was the sister site of that one in Mississippi. The other one.
I see.
And while I was there, I was talking to Mick, and he had retired. So he had retired at the age of about 40 with like 8 figures in the bank.
Yeah.
He's 40 years old. And Mick likes to golf. And about less than a year into it, 6 or 9 months into it, I guess he came home at 2:00 in the afternoon, half lit up from a couple too many glasses of Chardonnay after golf. And his wife, Colleen, said something to the effect of, "Hey, Mick, this retirement thing ain't going to work, buddy." Basically, it was like, "I think you're going back to work." So, at about that time, there used to be a bank called First Union, and it was based in North Carolina. And the CEO a guy who became the CEO, he was looking to build their institutional equity business. They didn't have much of an institutional equity business, so he was looking for these guys like Mickey Mazzara. So they had hired a bunch of investment professionals from Alex Brown, but they didn't have a head of it. And Mickey was hired back to be the head of institutional equity trading, which included research, publication, syndication, origination, everything that had to do with equities. Back then it was all together. Now it's all separated. And Mickey was hired back, into a significant 7-figure role. And, he went back to work. And along the way, he contacted me and he said, "Isn't it about time you think about retiring?" And I said, "Not sure what I'm going to do yet, Mick." And he said, I want you to come work for me. He said, "If you can run and tell me everything there is to run an aircraft carrier, you can help me run a cash equity business." And so while I was still on active duty in Monterey, they sponsored me to get my investment licenses. So I got my Series 7, my 63, and my Series 24, which was the management license. So now I had been in the Navy for 24 years. Started out as an E1, and I've my Social Security statements. Would you like to know how much money I made the very first year I was in the Navy? My first.
I would actually, yeah.
$3,600.
Oh my God.
That was for the year.
Wow.
$3,600. That's what we were paid. 24 years later, I don't think I made, and I actually have it, but I think it was around $67,000 or something like that. And I was like, yeah, Mick, I would love to think about it. So he said, look, if you pass these tests, no issues, you're going to come work for me. Like he just like told me, you're going to come work for me directly to him.
Yeah.
And so long story short, I passed all those exams like with flying colors. And I can even tell you what I scored. I scored an 88, a 90, and a 92. And
Okay.
and so I did well in the exams. And so he hired me to be his chief of staff. Now I had never made more than about $67,000 in my entire life.
Yeah.
He started me out at $200,000 a year. My very first year, here's what I'm going to tell you. My very first year that I worked for him, I made more money. That was what my base pay was $200,000. The very first year,
Holy cow.
I made more money than the last 5 years that I had been in the Navy.
Oh my God.
And it only
that's not a bad gig.
It only got better from there.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
to this very day, I owe my post-Navy life to my Navy life and to a guy named Mickey Mazzara, who and he and his wife and his kids still live. They live near me here in Maryland, and then they live part of the year down in Florida.
Yeah.
And I love them like a brother. And he and Colleen and their 4 kids, I've been to all their weddings, and three of them, 3 of the 4 that had weddings, and you just really. So the Navy, I mean, you really pull the thread, right?
Mm-hmm.
Poor kid that didn't know shit from Shinola, didn't come from an educated family or a wealthy family or a family of means. Get hired by a guy out of the Navy, changed my life. And then he had me in different roles. And then eventually the business unit that we ran, they moved it to New York, and Mickey was not selected to run it in New York.
Okay.
They hired some New York knucklehead who was there for like 2 years and did a horrible job. And so, but Mickey was allowed to stay in Baltimore and to run a hedge fund and use some of his own money. I was working in New York at the time, running a different business for him. He asked me to come back and help him run this hedge fund. So I was part of a hedge fund, a long short U.S. equity hedge fund, where I traded and was a portfolio manager with Mickey.
Wow.
And Anthony Gallo. And came back and did that. And then the company we were with, Wachovia, was one of the banks that failed during the financial crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we were. We were at First Union. It became Wachovia, and then Wachovia failed during the financial crisis. So my unit, Mickey's unit, was shut down. Mickey retired, and I was out of work for 9 months. And I was eventually hired by UBS, the big Swiss bank, and I would go up to Stamford, Connecticut on Sunday night, come back on Friday afternoon. And not long after I got out of the Navy, I got divorced, and that was 26 years ago. So that's under the bridge. Anyway, that happened. And while I was at UBS, a guy named Barack Obama was elected president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And he selected this poor kid with no education.
Wow. No. Take your time. It's amazing. It truly is. I mean, this is one of those perfect stories that, picturesque story.
Selected me. It may not sound prestigious to some people, but for me, I was selected by the President of the United States to serve on the board of the Securities Investor Protection Corporation. So if you look at your brokerage statement, it'll say SIPC on the bottom.
Uh-huh.
It's analogous to like the FDIC, which it insures the banks. the securities industry is called SIPC. President Obama appointed me to that. I had a Senate confirmation and served on that for 10 years.
No kidding. Wow.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep. And that
now,
is,
is that in addition to your job, or was that?
It was. We met. Sometimes we would meet monthly, but we had quarterly board meetings, and I was for the fund. It was at the time I was there a $2+ billion fund, and I was part of the group that managed that fund and kept it safe. And we are the group that stepped in when Bernie Madoff, when that fraud was exposed, and when Lehman Brothers. So SIPC's role is when there's fraud or a failure of a financial securities institution. They step in and they manage the orderly bankruptcy. So we oversaw the two largest bankruptcies ever, Lehman Brothers, and then the Madoff fraud. And so that all happened while I was on the board of SIPC. And
that's really cool.
Really cool. And just every opportunity, started it with the Navy. Along the way, 20+ years ago, I met my wife, Lee, who we've been together 20 years, actually, last month. And
nice.
She's a board certified ER doctor and a nationally recognized speaker. She's on on television and all that.
Yeah.
And talks about medical. She's an expert in cannabis science and therapeutics as well as medicine. And she was selected by the governor of Maryland to serve on a board here in Maryland. And
very nice.
Then a few years ago, actually during COVID, so I'd retired, had different roles on Wall Street, and then had left Wall Street, was doing some startup stuff. I ran a tech accelerator actually for Johns Hopkins University. And while I was there, met some interesting people. And while I was doing that, I got a call from, this was right as COVID was starting in 2019. At the end of 2019, I got a call from a lady that she had been promoted to be the chief operating officer of Wells Fargo's their investment business, like their wealth investment business, like a $15-16 billion organization, 30,000 employees. She was selected to be the COO. She said, "Hey, I'm going to need some help in this role. Would you come back to Wall Street?" And so right at the beginning of COVID, I accepted her offer and went back to work at Wells Fargo in 2020.
No kidding. Wow.
And there's no part to that story, in that in the year 2000, when I went to work on Wall Street for Mickey, one of the things that I did as the chief of staff and CEO was manage technology initiatives.
Right.
A young business analyst in Charlotte that supported our institutional equity business. And 20 years later, that's the lady.
No kidding. Wow.
They called me up and offered me a stupid amount of money to come work for her. And she said to me, "You know what, Tony? You never treated me like a girl. You treated me with dignity and respect." And that's how I've always tried to, kind of run my leadership and kind of who I am. And so that was another thing that so I did that for 4 years. I eventually had an enterprise role and helped lead innovation. And then they decided to get rid of that. So I was really a couple of years ago getting ready to retire. But I don't hunt, I don't golf, and I don't fish. And
those are the three main ones you got to do.
I know, right? I have an old truck, and I have a high performance car that I enjoy a lot. I love going from 0 to 100 very quickly, and that's kind of my thing. And
There's nothing wrong with that.
nothing wrong with that at all. So um, I I wanted to find something to do, and we came across this franchise based out of Southern California. It's a men's health clinic, so that's what I do now. I
Okay.
run men's health. So we have 2 men's health clinics in Maryland, and so that's kind of my day job now. My wife is our medical director. She doesn't work in the clinic every day. I have nurse practitioners that work with me in the
Mhm.
clinic every day. But that's kind of how I spend my time. And I had 3 adult children. I had my one daughter died 2 years ago from
Mhm.
cancer, and I have 2 other kids. They both live nearby here,
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
well, my wife Lee and are empty nesters, and um, that's us. That's kind of
Very nice.
how I ended up here today. Yeah,
Wow. What a story,
yeah.
man.
I'm 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 just like, how lucky, right? Just met really great
Yeah,
people along the way, and I tried to
that's
be good.
amazing.
And people have been good to me, but I had to fight for it, sometimes.
Yeah,
With,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
retailers, and when I was hired on the Wall Street, that was no easy thing either, because
Oh, yeah.
a lot of the guys that I worked with came from Preppyville, and did not
All right.
they were not in the armed forces, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They went to a good college, they fell out of college, and somebody in their family hooked them up with a fancy paying job, and
Right.
they thought they were the best, and they didn't relate to this Navy guy.
Yeah.
So I had to fight through that
Mm-hmm.
as well, and to kind of find my own way there on Wall Street. So all along the way, that was you know I had to stand up for myself all along the way in the Navy, and then after the
Mm-hmm.
Navy, etc. So I
Wow.
just
I think you're an amazing example of one, perseverance and just pushing through. And when something gets in your way, that's okay. I'm either going to go around that obstacle or I'm going to go through that obstacle, but you're not going to stop me. And I think this is a perfect example of all that.
Yeah. I mean, I've met so many great leaders, so many great, men and women. Um, but most of the really awesome ones that I kind of, when I go like this,
Hmm.
they're military.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Um,
A
yeah.
lot of good military leaders out there, or,
Yeah. Well, they're
retired.
real, and
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like today. This political environment today is just very unhealthy, and
Oh, yeah.
we're not going to have
That-
that. We're not going to have that conversation tonight.
Well, yeah, I'll have to talk to you offline on some of that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
What else you need
yeah,
to know
wow.
about me? That's
Well,
kind of.
shoot, I don't know. What else do I need to know about you?
I rode my Harley Davidson from sea to shining sea by myself.
Oh, yes.
Throw that in. When I finished grad school, my next duty assignment was on Kennedy in Jacksonville, and this was before cell phones and
Yeah.
music. And I packed my bags up, and my wife said, "Are you out of your mind?" And I was just like, when else in my life could I possibly do this?
Yeah.
And I headed out from Monterey and rode my Softail across the country by myself. So always slept in a good hotel each night. My brother worked in the hotel industry, so I'd be like, I think I'm going to be in near Dallas, or I think I'm going to be near wherever, and he'd hook me up and put me up in some Marriott or some Marriott associated property. And
That's awesome.
got on the road early each morning and quit before.
How many miles? How many miles a day?
Gosh, so I would try to get on the road early, maybe 6 or 7, and then I would take a couple hours in, then ride again through lunch, then take another break in the afternoon. So rode about 8 hours each day, and what maybe average 50 miles, when you count the stops and stuff. So
Yeah.
maybe 400, 500 miles a day, something like that.
Okay.
And
wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. And ended up in Jacksonville, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Stopped and visited some friends along the way. And so I've done a lot.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I've done a lot and had so many opportunities. And I don't ride anymore. I had a buddy that lived a few houses down from me
Mm-hmm.
that was out riding with some of his friends, and a truck threw it. He hit it and went down and was killed.
Mm.
And, that happened about 8 years ago. And I thought, you know what? I've been really, really lucky. And I just kind of gave it up then and just went with high horsepower four-wheel automobiles.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So my friend, his name was Kenny. Kenny worked in, I want to say Goodyear. He worked in the truck retreading division of Goodyear, and a frickin' truck threw a tread, and he went down and was killed. How about that? How about that for
holy moly?
Yeah. So that was kind of wild. Yeah. So I think
that's insane.
That's kind of it for me. I'm sure bored.
We could probably sit here and talk for hours and hours. But thanks for coming on and doing this. I always have these questions at the end. So if you're willing to answer a couple of questions.
Go. Fire away.
All right. What is your proudest military moment?
I gave it to you. When Ed Fay told me he was going up for a cigar when I was in charge of the USS John F. Kennedy going through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, the Strait, not straits. That's right.
Yeah,
I like that.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. What is your most embarrassing military moment?
Well, that one. Let me think about that one for a sec.
If you're like me, I got a bunch of them.
I have one.
Okay.
I was after I was the aide.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy that was a Navy captain who was selected to be Admiral Chubb's replacement.
Okay.
His name is Paul Gaffney, if Paul's watching. And Paul, in a group of my peers, there were every oceanography student was at the Naval Postgraduate School, and there was a bunch of us, maybe 50 or so of us, in a room, and he came to speak to us. And he saw me in the room, and he referred to me as the wilting violet. In other words, my day in the sun was over.
Jeez.
And I thought, you son of a bitch. I think that was my most embarrassing. And
wow.
Afterward, be like, what did you ever do to him? And you know what the answer was? Nothing. Nothing. He just was some guy with a gigantic ego. Like,
oh my God, that's funny.
For dinner before. One of my peers called me a wilting violet.
That's just crazy.
I'm over it.
Yeah. I love it.
I did okay.
All right. If you could be one military leader for a day, who would that be?
Ed Fay.
Mm.
He was my commanding officer on board John F. Kennedy. He was an F-18 pilot. He rode Harley Davidsons. He was just a cool guy. Ed's still alive, actually. And he was just a really cool guy, and I honored him. And but probably one of the things that I say all the time actually came from him, and it was, it doesn't matter. He would get on the 1MC, the internal ship's communication system at night,
right,
and have comments each night. And he would almost every night, maybe it was every night, he would say, it doesn't matter where the person is, where the person came from that's working next to you on the ship, in engineering or on the flight deck or whatever. We treat everybody with dignity and respect. And we treat everybody with dignity and respect each and every day. And so that's important to me. So that was important to me. Admiral Chubb was important to me, but not as important as Ed was. You know what? maybe I got to say two, and Colonel Mike
Yeah.
Wiley. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Wiley, who was my commanding officer at ROTC, who went on to be,
Hmm.
one of the guys who wrote the U.S. Marine Corps manuals on maneuver warfare, and then
Yeah.
Captain, then Admiral Ed Fay. I'm going to go with those two.
Nice.
There you
All
go.
right. No, those are both good. Both good. I love it. All right. What is one lesson or skill that you learned that you still use today?
Treat everybody with dignity and respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, somewhere along the way, adopted General and Secretary of State Colin Powell's 18 lessons on leadership. And if you're not familiar with them, they're awesome. But lesson number one is sometimes being responsible means pissing people off. And number 18 is command is lonely. And
Oh, God.
I say refer to number one. And so he also talks about making decisions and not having analysis paralysis. You're never going to have all the information that you need.
Mm-hmm.
Wait till you get 40 or 50% of it, but there's no marginal improvement to most decisions if you try to get beyond 80% of all the available information.
Yeah.
And there's other kind of things in. So what is one lesson? One lesson is Colin Powell's 18 lessons on leadership.
All right. I like what you did there. That was smooth.
What I did there?
That was smooth.
Okay.
Yeah. That was good.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to get wild. In the zombie apocalypse, what will be your weapon of choice and what anthem will be playing?
I've never played a video game in my life. I feel like never have I played any of those first-person shooters. Never.
Wow.
It's never appealed to me.
Yeah.
So my stepson playing that stuff growing up, and I just didn't like him playing it. It just seemed like a wrong environment. So I don't even know. I have an idea what the zombie apocalypse is and what would be playing. I don't know, but that's AJ. I'm gonna.
You got nothing.
And I got
no problem
there. God gave rock and roll to you by Kiss. I don't know.
Oh, it's a good one. That's a good song. I like it. All right. What animal best describes your time in service?
Well, that's an interesting question, isn't it? Well, we love dogs here at our house. But what is an animal that is persistent, doesn't give up, works hard? Like that's most mammals. They work hard. But how about maybe I'd like to be a Labrador Retriever, man. They're the best. They're the best. So.
Those are good dogs. Yeah. Wow.
What animals? I never really thought about myself in those terms. Yeah.
Hey, you got to throw out some weird questions every now and again.
Well, you got them. There you go. Doing a very good job.
I can do something right. Knowing what you know now, would you do it all over again?
Oh, without question. Without any question, hesitation, or doubt. Would I do some of it differently? Of course.
Yeah.
Would I do some of it differently? Absolutely. But no, I would not. I'm glad my dad signed that paper.
Yeah.
It changed my life. And
that's awesome.
That along the way. No, not for 1 minute would I change any of it.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, as we draw to an end, I always have words of wisdom at the end. This is your opportunity to, I don't know, just let any of the listeners know what's on your mind and what you want to say. It doesn't matter what it is. This is your time.
Don't take politics too seriously, especially in light of how politics are playing out right now in front of us. Don't pick your friends based on what side of the aisle they're on, because that side of the aisle will be completely different at a point in the future. Treat people with dignity and respect. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of my theme, man.
Yeah.
Try to be decent to people. I don't pay any of our employees minimum wage. I'm embarrassed that people run businesses where they can't pay people a living wage. That's kind of a pet peeve of mine. Like, if you run a business and you gotta, and your people that work for you are eligible for SNAP, why shut your business down? You shouldn't be running a business because what you're telling me is that the government has to fund your business.
Yeah. That's a good point.
You're so proud of you being, an entrepreneur and this and that, but the people that work for you got to be supported by the government. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Dignity and respect. Pay people a fair wage.
Mm-hmm.
There should be health care for everybody. Healthcare is not something that businesses should have to pay for. Everybody ought to be able to get decent health care.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
All right.
It's kind of me.
Well, thanks for coming on and doing this. I learned a lot with you on here.
Invite me, man. I didn't think I could run on for 2 hours, but I did. And it was not hard at all.
No. And very entertaining as well. So I had a blast.
Well, thanks for having me, man. I think we're going to do something else together, aren't we?
Yeah, I think you're going to come on a fireside chat soon. I don't remember when that is exactly, but you will be coming on, so that'll be a good time. I think you'll enjoy the crew.
You know what, AJ? If I do that, I got a little side thing that I'm doing. That's how we actually met. It had to do with this little platform I built for podcasting. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about that on your fireside.
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
So that's part of my who I am as a veteran.
You know what? Before we close this one out, can you say just a little bit about that?
Yeah. So my wife published a book last year. It's called Never Let Them See You Sweat. And it's a book that's full of science and research about how to manage stress. And after she published that book, I noticed that she was spending time looking for speaking opportunities, podcasts and conferences. And she was spending like an inordinate amount of time doing it. And, she probably should have gotten a publicist or something. But as I'm watching her do that, I have a friend that's a serial entrepreneur out in California, sold a company to Google at one point in the past. Yeah. He said to me last December, why don't you just build her something? And I started laughing and I haven't written a line of code since I was in graduate school 30 years ago. And he said to me, as a good friend would, get your head out of your ass, because with genetic AI, people can do things today that needed special skills in the past. In other words, if you know what you want to build using ChatGPT or Claude or any of the other tools, you can likely develop something on your own and get it to a point where you can use it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm up on that. And I built this platform. It's called Speaker Agent AI. And what we do is we build a persona. I say we now because I have some help, but I got it to the point of where it worked for my wife by myself.
Yeah.
We build a persona, and then we build a profile. And based on that persona, we go out and we look for speaking opportunities for you. And we match them up together, and we give you all the information on who to contact, who to talk to, what their LinkedIn profile is, what the podcasting opportunity is, how to contact them. And it works. And so we're starting to go to market with that right now. We're 8 weeks into our go to market. So we've actually got a couple customers. And so it's built for individuals to use, but it's also built for PR agencies to use.
That'd be good. Yeah.
We're adding conferences as well. So we're
nice
podcasts, and then we're going to also add conferences. So that's my little side project I'm working on using artificial intelligence. So,
it's a pretty cool deal in my opinion. I don't know. I think it's fantastic. But we'll get into that way more whenever you come on the fireside chat for sure.
All right, AJ. Thanks, man. I know it's coming up. I don't know when, but I'll be there.
Okay, sounds good. And then don't hang up on me after this intro or outro. Just hang on and then we'll be back. So for everybody out there, if you're struggling, need help, anything like that, don't forget the VA does have some good resources. You can always dial 988, press option 1. You can always text 838-255 or go to veteranscrisisline.net and click on that chat icon. Any of those options will put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life lost is one too many. I care about you. Tonyt cares about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, reach out to the buddies you serve with, ask them how they're doing. If they need a helping hand, please give it to them. One last time, thank you very much. Much appreciated. To everybody out there, stay motivated, change your socks.
You served on active duty with purpose. Get that purpose back by joining the Marine Corps League. Support the Lost Art Project Veterans Voices. Enter our quarterly raffle for a Saddleback Leather Company flight bag. 1 ticket for $10 or 3 for $25. Support veterans. Enter now. Every veteran has a story. Every story is a piece of history. Join the project as we collect, preserve, educate, and inspire. The Lost Art Project. Veterans Voices. Preserving voices. Protecting legacies.